This is David Sable coming to you again for New York Festivals, Creativity from the Other Side, where we explore what makes people creative. We get you can be a great copywriter. We get you can be a great designer. We understand you can be an incredible producer or director. But what really drives your creativity? Where did it come from? What's your origin story? That's what Creativity from the Other Side is all about. And I'm so honored and pleased to have today as our guest, Kevin Zung from McCann Worldwide in Sao Paulo. Kevin, a new FOD, friend of David. And Kevin, I always say, I hope that when we finish, I'm an FOK, a friend of Kevin. But we welcome you today to the interview. And first of all, Brazil is one of my favorite countries in the world. And as we were talking about before, I have many friends there. I spent many years going many times to Brazil when I was at Wonderman and when I was at YNR, VML, YNR, and it's amazing. I mean, I love the industry there. I think there's a creativity, there's an energy. And McCann was always a company that I admired. And you as the COO and the Chief Creative Officer, which I think is very interesting. We'll talk about that. Like, what's it like to be the COO and the CCO? That's unusual in the industry. So welcome.
Thank you very much, David. This is my pleasure. I already consider myself friend of David, so FOD, and this is my pleasure having been here talking to you and to talk
Thank you so much. And so I'd be remiss if we didn't start by talking about COVID, not about the work that you did, because I know that McCann and I'm sure many of the other agencies really leaned in to help the government, to help the people. But sadly, Brazil was very hard hit by COVID and still is.
Yes.
So yes. Can you just share maybe just some of how it just affected people, it affected the industry?
Absolutely.
Some of your views.
I'm pretty sure Brazil is being on the news all around the world because of the way we are dealing with this pandemic and the impact of it in the country and in worldwide, of course. I believe Brazilian people don't have the background of facing many catastrophes or disasters or war. This is my personal point of view. So I believe that people here are not used to get together to face something this strong. And I also believe that there are many political and many other decisions that affected very badly the way we face the pandemic. I'm confident that 1 year later, we are more aware of the danger of it. We have more information. We are more united, and we can definitely change the way we are going.
And how have you seen it affect, obviously, Worldwide McCann and just the industry in general, like the trends that were accelerated, things? I mean, we've seen it all over the world is remote, and yet there's some people who would rather or are hoping that we come back to some hybrid model. Like, what's your view? How is that going to work out in Brazil?
Sure. Yeah. It changed everything. I believe we were already ready to work remote. We had all the technology, we had everything, but we were not used to it. We haven't tested it for real. And from one day to another, we had to use it 100%. And in the beginning, it was surprising that we did a good job because we figured out that we had the tools to make it work. But of course, 1 year later and months later, there are many impacts in our lives that we need to manage. So remote working is not just working the same way, but from home. I believe there's a deeper change in culture, in flexibility, and in the way you approach your work and your domestic tasks, your family, your friends, your social life, even if it's digital. So I believe we are still learning because people were quite expecting this kind of flexibility to work whenever they want, and to mix and to work from home or from wherever they are. But at the same point, I don't believe, especially in Brazil, people were ready, and people are still not ready to understand that changes are deeper than just where you are. It means how you are going to work, how you are going to collaborate with your team. Should I use a Zoom session? Should I use an email? Should I use a messenger app? People don't know how to choose it still. So I believe we are still adapting, and we have a lot to learn on this new world of working remotely and with more flexibility.
So Kevin, I think I'm so glad you said that, because I do believe that that's true around the world. It's not just about Brazil. I think whether it's in the States or in Europe, I think as much as we might like to pretend that we're all at the leading edge of this and we all know how to do it great, I think we're all working around. I think what's fascinating, and you brought it up as you started to talk, it's also about your family, and it's about your community. It's about all these other things that are happening. So we're seeing, for example, there've been many articles here in the US talking about not just single mothers, who are sort of obvious, but even in families that had pretty shared workload before, moms are getting harder hit than their husbands in just like who's taking care of what in the house. When you got two parents who are Zooming, and we went through a period of time when you couldn't have the nanny or whoever come into the house, and then maybe afterwards it came. So there's so many pieces of this that are bigger than just, hey, Kevin and I are going to Zoom and have a good time.
Absolutely. And the family are much more involved in the work itself. I have been in many working from many different places. I rented an Airbnb to spend a week in the countryside to work from there with my family. And my family are much more involved in the work because they listen, they see you all the time, they see if you are stressed, they see if you are happy, they see if you accomplished something important. So they support you, and they get involved in a very different way. They ask me, what about that project? What about that? They know all my professional colleagues from hearing me talking to them.
I love that. I never thought about that, because back in the day, I would come home after 12, 15, 20, it didn't make a difference, long days. And all that they saw was me at the end of it. And so during that day, I probably had highs and lows and middles and whatever, but they only saw where I ended up versus watching the flow during the day, which is much more interesting, I think, and gives you a much better picture of who you are and how work goes. That's awesome. Good. Well, thank you for sharing that, because look, we hope that as things continue, that Brazil continues to get its act together in a big way, and that just the devastation of this plague starts to lessen as it has elsewhere. But again, I know that the industry has really contributed greatly to that, and maybe we'll just talk about some of the things that you've done, and maybe you can share what others in the industry have done too, and we can get to that. But I just want to go back in your history, because what always interests me, and hopefully the people who watch this, I can only hope that it interests them as well, is like, where did you get your creativity from? And so as I was learning about you and just doing some research into who you are and what you do, so some of the obviouses, or the obvious things, if you will, are you did Hyper Island, and I think that's cool. You did Berlin School, which I think is cool. I think the notion of the Berlin School I always love about creative leadership. So it's not just about, okay, you're going to be a better copywriter or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're going to be better in your creative leadership. And I think that's something that we lack often. We have great creatives, not enough great creative leaders.
Yeah, this is a great point. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're not interrupting me at all. It's your interview.
but this is a great point, because I believe the agencies in general and the market in general, they are not built to prepare you to make this step, to become a creative leader instead of being a creative. And this is a great step. Many people don't imagine or don't realize the difference of one role and the others. And Berlin has been doing a great job on bringing this and helping leaders to understand and go very deep on it. But I also believe that the agencies in general also have the duty, the role to make it clear. And I think I have been lucky enough to work for people who helped me to understand the steps and how to grow, and to people who gave me opportunities and to give me the chance to learn and to grow. And I do believe this is a great step, and it's really different. I have been working with many brilliant creatives that should not be brilliant creative leaders, and that's okay. That's they are different roles. So I do believe that it's important to make it clear to the benefit of our markets and to the quality of the work itself.
And so tell us about being a COO. Because I think that maybe is an outcome of all of this. So
Yeah.
you're not just the chief creative officer, which suggests the level of your creative leadership, but you're also a leader in the agency in general as the operations. That just, I find that to be so awesome, frankly, and so interesting.
It's interesting, and it's also confusing for many people, because people, of course, there are so many titles nowadays: COO, CEO, CSO, CCO, and people may get confused, of course. But this is cool. When I was invited to join McCann almost 3 years ago to come back to Brazil, my boss, who is the CEO of the McCann Brazil, Hugo Rodrigues, he invited me to become COO. And I asked the same thing. What do you mean? What am I supposed to do? And he said, Kevin, you led the creativity department in our past experiences, and I'm pretty sure you were good on that. Now you're going to lead the whole agency. This is what the COO does. And I said, okay, I'm not sure if these people will understand that. And he said, okay, choose your title. What do you want to be? I want you to lead the agency. And it was very cool, because I went deep on business, how could I say, meaning of each title and the role of each person in a company. And the day after, I said, okay, let's go. COO is a good position. I understand the task. I believe I can help, and let's work together.
And how has it changed your view? So you've done the creative thing. So how does this change your view, and what does it add to your creativity or to your ability to drive creative in the creative group?
Integration is the great point for me, and I've been working for it for many years, but now I have the responsibility to make it work. If the agency is not integrated and connected and working to the same direction, it's my fault. I cannot say it's anyone else's fault. So it changed my view in this way. I went deeper on media and data. In Brazil, we have media agency inside the creative agency, which is a different model from the rest of the world. So it helps to put everyone in together and to discuss a plan for a client. So answering your question, David, I would say that I have a more broader, wider view of the agency nowadays. I fight for more integration. I understand better how media people feel, how strategic people feel, how data people feel, technology people feel, and what they expect from other teams to collaborate together. So I think this is the main outcome of this position, that I'm playing the role for 2.5 years, and we still have a lot to do in McCann, but I think we improved a lot on this
I
direction.
love that. It's so interesting. When I started in the agency world as a copywriter, and then went off and did many other things, and then I'm doing what I do. And at one point, I remember we were working on a big campaign, and it was clear to me that where the creative director, the copywriter at the time was going wasn't right. And I suggested something, and he just turned to me and he said, "Stay in your freaking lane." And I remember thinking to myself, man, that is the stupidest comment I have ever heard. But that was the way it used to be. And in fact, I think it still is in many agencies and in many situations where people don't get it and they don't understand what you just said, that it is about integration.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
I think more so as we go forward is, you always have to start with a great idea, or as the directors want to, great story, a great idea. You have to have a vision, and then you have to know how to bring it all together today.
Yeah,
So
and to collaborate. We were talking a bit a few minutes ago about how to collaborate. So nowadays it's much more common, different agencies which supposed to be competitors to collaborate together for a client, and it can be done in a very cool way. And more than this, we need the agency itself to collaborate in the same direction and to bring the best proposal, the best plan, and to the client.
right,
So
with a vision that's all about the client's business. No, I totally agree. Let's just talk about media for a second, because Brazil is a unique media market, not just because of super commissions and other and not so transparent things. We won't touch
not that super anymore.
yeah, I know. We won't touch those issues of the past. But the truth is, I'm just curious if you see, so in most of the rest of the world, we took media ad years ago out of the agencies, created major, huge media planning, buying, tracking companies that often today are in competition with their agencies on some work, which is kind of strange, but is true. So I'm just wondering, as you look around your world, and you're unique in that you have media inside. So when you talk to colleagues who are in, I don't know, England or the United States or someplace where it isn't like that, do you see that you have an edge? Do you see that you can get to an idea or to an execution better, quicker?
I like this model, but it all depends on the leadership of the process. If we have leadership in the agencies and in the client that can set the rules, can set the vision, and put people to collaborate together, I think it will work anyway. So I worked in France, and we used to work with another media agency from the same group. It was two different companies, and we could collaborate together. And I also had other opportunities where it was experiences where it was not really fluid, the flow of the work. So I do believe that having media inside the agency is something good because it's faster. We can discuss ideas. We can increase the power of a message, as you said. You first need an idea, but then you can increase the power of it. You can connect with people in a better way. You can explore it in many different ways. If media work together with us, we are in a better place.
Right.
Of
So
course,
I hope everybody's just listening. Kevin's talking about integration and the power of true integration, which is basically sharing ideas, but you need great leadership. Right? You need great leadership, you need great vision, you need a little bit of selflessness because you got to step back a little.
Absolutely.
Everybody has to make room for the other.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are humans. We all have our pride, our own objectives, our humor, and of course, we may do amazing stuff together, and we may spend 1 month just fighting and having no result at all. As I said, I think we first need a vision and objective. We need to make people engage and understand what will engage each person may be different. One person may be looking to the quality of the work, other person may be looking to an opportunity of promotion, the other person may be looking for visibility in the market, or to show to prove himself he can do that, or to prove his boss he can do that. So we need to understand these different minds and set a common objective, and having a strong leadership. And again, sometimes we need the client to do that, because if we put many agencies together, each agency has, of course, as a company, its own objective. The client needs to say, okay, let's build the plan together. The objective should be the brand's objective, the client's objective, not each one's.
Clients, I hope you're listening to this. What we were talking about before was a particular client I won't mention, who made it very clear back in the day on a project that I was working on with an agency that was a big rival of ours, that you guys aren't getting another penny, you guys aren't getting another penny. Figure it out, work together. You're not getting his money, he's not getting your money, done. And so the collaboration was spectacular because the client was the one.
Yeah, and people can focus on the work.
Yeah, it was amazing. So again, I just hope everybody's paying attention. Like I'm discussing agency leadership with the chief creative officer of McCann in Brazil, and it's so refreshing and so important and so clear that this is how to be successful. So I love it. So I just want to talk. Let's back up a little bit and just talk about some other stuff. I'm really fascinated with Studio Geek.
Yeah.
and I gotta tell you, I wanted to order because maybe I am a geek, but comic books are my thing. I'm a Marvel comic nut.
Cool.
I'm a Star Wars fanatic. Indiana Jones, Lord of the Rings. I mean, these are things that I love. And now that I have grandchildren, my grandchildren love them too. I'm proud that as my grandchildren grew up, and the oldest now is 14, all of them know everything there is to know about Star Wars and Indiana Jones. And some of their friends are like, "What's that?" They know everything. They know everything. So I love it. But
you did a good job.
No, totally. But it's just the whole notion of games and TV shows and comics and movies and using licenses to create just fun, great products. Yeah, which is so cool. So,
yeah, thanks, David. I have been always passionate about the pop culture, as I know you are as well, and I have been frustrated for many years for looking for stuff that could be as cool as the stories itself, as the characters itself, as the universe we consume in a movie, in a series, in whatever. And many years ago, I was quite frustrated not finding that, especially in Brazil, because when we travel abroad, there are some stuff, but in Brazil, there were not. So we decided to create this brand, Studio Geek, to produce it. We made many partnership with the owners of each brand, and we created some very cool stuff, which I'm quite proud of this project. I lost a lot of money on it.
That was because you didn't share with me. I would have ordered everything.
I'm not partner anymore. So since 2017, when I moved to France, I became too distant from the business and from the company itself. So I decided to leave. but I'm quite proud of the things that I have learned, created. And I did not created everything alone, so I invited other creative people who were also passionate about that to create it, and the energy was amazing.
So what's your favorite pop culture icon?
I love Marvel. I love GI Joe because GI Joe is all about my childhood. Sometimes I post some of my action figures on my Instagram account. So I would say GI Joe is part of my heart because it remembers me so many good stuff with my brothers and my
That's
childhood.
so cool. You know, when I was young, GI Joe first came out, but they weren't the small action figures. They were like these
Yeah.
12-inch. It was basically like Barbie for
Yes.
guys who were, alpha. And so these GI Joe things that were crazy,
Yeah.
and
This is
the uniforms and the, oh my God, the bombs that went off. I mean, it's pretty scary. Thinking back on it,
this,
it
this
was
is
pretty violent.
yeah. Netflix has a documentary on this. The trigger and the turning point of this business called this kind of toy was when they when they changed the size of the action figure, because no one wants to, no boy wanted to have a hero that was the husband of Barbie at
Exactly,
that
exactly. That
moment.
was my problem because my
Yeah.
sister had the Barbies and she, oh, let's play. No, I don't want to play. No way. Get your Ken. I'm going to
Exactly.
kill Ken. Like, get out of here.
Exactly.
So it's
This is
interesting. I worked for Hasbro. Hasbro was one of our clients,
cool.
and we spent a bunch of years launching um, new products for them, new GI Joes. We did one program you would have loved called GI Joe Heroes in America, which was a huge. It was the biggest media thing for kids that year. We had the end of it was that every single state in the United States picked one kid hero. They all came to Washington on the same day, and the senators and congressmen from each state came to this big event
Awesome.
with some
Awesome.
of the wrestlers who were in some of the famous wrestlers. Sergeant Slaughter was the
Yeah.
most famous. So I got to work with Sarge, who was an incredible human being. And anyways, it was just great. So I'm totally with you on GI Joe.
Cool. Cool.
I'm totally with you. So let's just switch gears again. We'll do the next switch. And everybody who knows Brazil knows that, and it's sort of obvious. Like if you've ever been to Brazil, if you ever spent any time there, it's sort of obvious that Brazil would be just a hothouse for social media and for social content. It's just so it's so obvious. If I would just pick countries without knowing anything and say these are the countries in the world that are where it's really developed and where people really pay attention, obviously we would pick Brazil. And so I think that so much of the work that you do is just so right on. And I hate the word authentic, but it's real. It's real. People, it's part of the culture. It's part of what happens. And I think that one of those, and I'm going to make a statement. You tell me if I'm wrong. The Black Santa, to
Mhm.
me, was incredible. But I think that having looked at it and watched it and tried to understand it, to me, what made that powerful is that if somebody would do that in the US, it would be weird because you wouldn't see that. But in Brazil, you could see a Black Santa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I right? It's like
Yeah.
people
Definitely.
don't, it's different because the culture is different and the color culture is different.
Yeah, definitely. We have more than half of the population in Brazil who are black or mixed. So and for many years, those people have not seen themselves in the TV, in the movies, and in the stories. So unless for roles that are not the best ones, I could say. We proposed this to Coca-Cola, and at the starting point, it was a bit shocking how we are going to change Santa. Santa is Coca-Cola's asset for 100 years. So imagine our global team looking at this idea. But we did it, and it was amazing. It was amazing, especially in the moment we are living. We have seen how we are getting aware of the social injustice with these people for many decades. So I believe that I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud, not only by myself, but for the company, for the client, for everyone, for Rede Global, which did it in partnership with us. Because I do think that this team did a great job.
So tell us about it. Tell us about it. Tell us how it worked, what the implications were.
Yeah, we came with the idea of having for the first time a Black Santa, and to putting it to launch it in a powerful way. Brazil has a very traditional Christmas special on TV, which is the TV Global Christmas special. It happens every year in the end of the year, and people wait to see that. It's kind of soap opera style that Brazil loves. And for the first time, we did it in partnership with a brand. And the story of this special TV show was exactly a Black grandfather who was looking for a job to help his family. And he applies to become the Santa Claus of a shopping mall. And because of prejudice, people say, no, you are Black. You cannot be a Santa Claus. You cannot play this role. Santa Claus is not Black. And in the story, he fights against that, and he finally ended becoming the Santa Claus of Coca-Cola Caravans, which is Caravan Tour is a very, how do you say, Christmas truck tours is a very strong asset from Coca-Cola as well. So in the story, he managed to become the Santa Claus of Coca-Cola truck tour and to help his family. So it was very touching. It was, the style of the story was soap opera Brazilian style. So it's quite cultural, local, and maybe a bit weird from outside of Brazil, but definitely a touching story. We had a huge reaction on social networks. We made it for Rio. We invited other Black actors to play for Rio the Santa Claus role in Rio Christmas truck tours around the country. So it was very, very special.
I just love the idea. I think what speaks to me is that when you think about it, Santa, I mean, maybe some people believe in Santa, but this kind of mythical figure that was created, right? It was created anyways. And Coke was one of actually the creators of the way we look at Santa today. That was white, and, you know, call it what you will. We can call it white super. I mean, you can call all that stuff. I don't think that was it. I think it was just because that's the way people thought. And so why shouldn't Santa be Black or Asian,
exactly,
or anything? Like, why not? Like, why? It's because Santa should be the way you as a human being projected, and we should be able to share that projection of how he looks. So the funny thing is, when I saw it, and maybe, you know, it's being Jewish, so Santa Claus is less. Santa Claus
it's
is
weird anyway.
It's less an issue in my life anyway. So I'm thinking, wow, that's so obvious. It's like, yes. I loved it. I really did. I wish we could take that global and just, you know, everybody could understand that that's why that should be something we look at and not think twice. And I should be able to look at a Black Santa and a white Santa, Asian Santa, and be Black or white or Asian or whatever, and look at that other Santa and say yes.
Okay.
right? Like I should be able to look at any Santa and say, yes, yes, I got it. I got
Absolutely.
it. It's my protection. Anyways, beautiful. It's beautiful. I love it. Talk
Like
about island.
just coming back to the previous subject, just like Green Lantern, which has many different
Right.
many different, how could I say, bodies and whatever.
Exactly. And they're all good. And wherever they show up,
Yeah,
we're happy,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
Right. In brightest day and darkest night. It doesn't make a difference. The Green Lantern is there to save us. I love it. Yes, a very good. It's a very good thing. In fact, today there was an article in the New York Times about the Black Superman. And
Cool.
it looks like it's going to become a TV show. And it was an interesting article about Black heroes in comic books in general, and how some of them, like the Black Panther, are created from the beginning, but then others, like it could be Captain America, and we're seeing that evolve right now. On if you're watching the Falcon and the Winter
Mm-hmm.
Soldier, and you're seeing. So it's so interesting. But what interested me this morning, it's funny because I reached out, a friend of mine, Danny Fingeroth, is one of the leading comic historians of the world. He used to be a Marvel writer and editor, and now he's written a ton of books on this. So what's interesting is that the original comics that came out in the 40s, Superman and others, were originally created by the first generation of Jewish refugees who had come to America, whose parents or themselves had experienced whatever, all kinds of hatred and bias in Europe. It was a time pre-Holocaust that was happening in Germany. And so there's this whole understanding that the story of Krypton and leaving your country and coming to a new country and being able to fight, having to hide,
Cool.
but then have superpowers was very cultural to them. And so I started to think about it, and I said, yes, that worked then. And now to transfer that to the Black movement, to Black Lives Matter, is so brilliant
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so
you're right.
is just so on note, because it's the same ethos.
Awesome.
So I love that, and I love your Black Santa. So let's talk about Islanded with Beats, because
Yeah,
that was a huge hit for you.
yeah, it was a very cool project. As you said, Brazilians are crazy for social networks. We are the fourth country for Facebook. People are crazy about that. So Island with Beats was a project that we launched for this alcoholic drink, because Carnival in Brazil is a huge moment, we all know, and there's
Amazing. Yeah,
and,
if you haven't experienced it, it's wow.
and there's no carnival with pandemic because social distance. So what we did, we invited Anita to invite some few friends to an island and to spend carnival there. Very few people, but with a lot of entertaining music, parties, and whatever, dancing. So it was a kind of reality show that we aired on Instagram. Probably the first reality show in Instagram.
So Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you used everything.
Yeah, we did originally on Instagram, but we also had the other platforms to support it, and it was huge because people were locked at home during Carnival and they need entertainment. So Anita is also a great professional on providing entertainment for the audience, and we believe it was successful because many different points were together. The people were willing, were looking for entertainment. They were locked at home. Anita is Anita. The format was quite innovative, and it was real time. And Brazilians are also fanatic for reality shows, not only for social networks. So we put both together.
Right. And you had a 2-hour live broadcast, right, that pushed this all out.
Yes, and we had many different episodes as well. And in the end, we invited people, one person to get involved and to travel to the island itself to see this experience and to live this experience in a way. Of course, we did it in a very how could I say, small scale for Rio because of pandemic and all health measures, but the impact of it was huge for the audience. So
just take a second, just talk about that, because you guys leaned into the safety. Like, you made it very clear that that was part of everything that was going on.
Absolutely, yeah, and it was, and it has been a challenge for we all in the industry, how to produce stuff during these times. So sometimes the health conditions are more strict, and sometimes depending on the evolution of the pandemic, we can count with more support or more resources for production. But anyway, we have to be twice as careful, twice as how could I say, we have to do everything with much more details than
Right.
we use it to, and it takes time. It takes a lot of professionals. It take a lot of work.
I love it. So tell us about, first of all, New York Festivals is really proud that you are a judge, that you're part of the panel, that you're going to be really making a statement for the industry. And I think it's important for New York Festivals. It is all about the work. New York Festivals is all about the work, the creative product, what's real, what's not. And I love that. I love that they're doing that. So tell us about your jury, what you're looking at, the way you're going to judge work, what people should think about.
Cool. I think New York Festival did a great work in the last years, building and trying to reinvent and to search for this real and impactful work. So I know that this year things may be a bit different. Of course, we will have less PR stunts or activations at home and a lot of things. I think we should be careful judging COVID work because it has been 1 year and we have seen brands and communication agencies building projects, and we need to understand which projects are relevant or are less relevant or are create a real impact or not. But again, I think the idea is in the heart of any communication plan. So I think we should look for ideas that help brands to be relevant, not for trickies, not for something that is just playful or just funny. We have been seeing the world expecting more for brands.
Right. I love that. It's funny. I had this conversation with another creative director a while back, because I've been on a tear that this year we've seen more borrowed interest than usual. So everybody jumped on to COVID. And so, in the beginning, it was, we're in this together. Mm-hmm. Everybody had the same tagline. Everybody had the same, when we couldn't go out and shoot, everybody was using the same rips. They were using the same footage. It was almost comic in what they were doing. And having said that, there were a few standout brands whose work wasn't necessarily award-winning, But instead of trying to borrow the interest, they were telling you how their brand could help you, which I
Yeah,
thought was interesting. We saw with Black Lives Matter here brands just jumping onto the bandwagon in strange ways that didn't advance anything other than to say, oh yeah, we support that. And like, okay, we got it, great. But like, what does that have to do with your brand? And then what does that say to me? Like, how can I use your brand to help other people? Or how can other people use your brand to help themselves? So that wasn't clear. And I think we're
absolutely.
seeing it again now. So I'm just, I'm so happy and grateful that you just said that. We want to see work that's relevant to the brand and to culture.
Absolutely.
That
Absolutely.
nexus, not work that takes culture and uses it,
Yes,
but
you're
work
right.
that's relevant, that's relevant to the brand, that's relevant to me as a human. What does it tell me to do? How does it make me feel and act differently?
Absolutely. And
So
I
I
hope
love,
you'll have a lot of it on New York Festival. Let's see. Let's see.
well, I'm looking forward to seeing the work that you judge and just to seeing the great results. And Kevin, I just want to thank you. This has been an incredible hour talking to
I
you.
loved it. I loved it.
And
Thank you very much, David. It's a pleasure to meet you. I watched many of your interviews in this session, and it's really interesting. And thanks for.
well, thank you. Well, I'm just honored that you're a new FOD and hopefully that I'm an FOK and that,
Definitely, you
and
are.
I look forward to talking about it. I hope that everybody paid attention. I think that if I boil down some of the things that we talked about, I think the notion of agency leadership is so big and so important. And it's not just about creative leadership or management leadership or data leadership. It's about understanding agency leadership. And I love the fact that Kevin, as the creative leader, is also the agency leader. And that's such a lesson. For all of us, we talked about integration, how important integration is, but not just inside the agency and not just between the agency and maybe other agencies that the client is working with, but how important it is for the clients to take a stand and for the clients to understand about shared accountability, for all of us to understand about shared accountability, that at the end of the day, what makes any of us successful is delivering for our clients. It's not about what we do, it's about what we do that drives our clients' agenda. And Kevin spoke about that. And maybe, for me anyways, one of the most important things that Kevin and I have Marvel and G.I. Joe in common. What could be better after meeting somebody for the first time and finding out that you have so much that connects you and so many important things. And I remind everyone, we're talking to Kevin, we spent some time talking about how devastating the plague has been in Brazil. And I remind you, I know it's controversial to some, but do keep wearing your masks where you should. There are places where you can wear it. You don't need to wear one outside now, and I think that's fine. But where you should wear it inside and where people are asking you to, it's not about you. It's not about me. It's about other people. It's about making other people feel comfortable. Not everybody's been vaccinated. Some people who are vaccinated get sick again. Let's all be together in this and make sure that we keep the protocols and we keep everybody safe and you stay safe. And this is David Sable, friend of Kevin, thanking you for joining us. Thank you on behalf of New York Festivals and thank you for watching Creativity from the Other Side.